butcher beneath the Iron Curtain. He looked like any other man riding the train through the fading gray towns of Soviet Russia, his briefcase in one hand, his glasses slipping down his nose, a forgettable figure vanishing into crowds. But beneath his quiet demeanor, something monstrous was stirring. For over a decade, Andrei Romanovich Chikatilo terrorized the Soviet Union with a series of murders so savage, so grotesque, that even seasoned detectives could hardly believe one man could be responsible. He wasn't just a killer, he was a sadist, a predator, a man who seemed to thrive on suffering and mutilation, who, by his own admission, could only achieve sexual gratification through violence and death. Between 1978 and 1990, Chikatilo murdered at least 52 people, mostly children, teenagers, and young women. His killing spree went unchecked for years, that not just because he was clever, but because he understood something terrifying. If your victims are the forgotten, the lost, the unwanted, nobody looks too hard. This is the story of how a quiet man with a briefcase became one of the most prolific and sadistic serial killers in modern history. This is the story of Andrei Chikatilo, the butcher of Rostov, a childhood of hunger and shame. Andrei Chikatilo was born on October 16, 1936, in the Ukrainian village of Yablushne during the Holodomor, the Soviet-engineered famine that killed millions. He grew up starving, frightened, and unwanted. His father was sent off to war and captured by the Nazis, returning home a broken man, shamed by the government and considered a traitor. Chikatilo's mother told him stories of his older brother Stepan being kidnapped and eaten by starving neighbors, a story that may have been folklore or brutally true. Either way, the horror stuck. It shaped him. His childhood home had no running water, no electricity, no privacy. He wet the bed well into adolescence. He was severely nearsighted and bullied relentlessly. He was also hiding a terrible secret. He couldn't perform sexually. In Soviet society, where masculinity was tied to strength and virility, this made Chikatilo feel powerless. He grew up believing he was worthless until he discovered that violence made him feel powerful. Part 2, his first kill, the door to darkness. Yelena Zakotnova, December 22, 1978. His first known victim was 9-year-old Yelena Zakotnova. Chikatilo, working as a supply clerk and living a double life, lured her to an abandoned shed. There, he attempted to assault her, but when he failed to become aroused, he flew into a frenzy. He stabbed her repeatedly, and in that moment, as she bled, screamed, and died, he experienced sexual release for the first time in his life. Her body was dumped in the Grushevka River and found 2 days later. A man named Alexander Kravchenko, previously convicted of rape, was arrested, coerced into confessing, and executed for the crime. Andrei Chikatilo got away with murder. Part 3, the murders begin to multiply. Larisa Kachenko, 1981. He struck again 3 years later. 17-year-old Larisa Kachenko was lured into a forest near a bus stop. Chikatilo offered her vodka. When she refused his advances, he shoved mud into her mouth, suffocated her, and then bit her breast off. Her body was found mutilated, left to rot among the trees. Lyubov Biryuk, June 1982. 13-year-old Lyubov Biryuk was last seen walking home from the market. Her body, discovered 2 weeks later, bore 22 stab wounds, many focused on the chest and pelvic area. Her clothes were torn, her body mutilated. Again, Chikatilo had failed to rape her, but the act of killing her had satisfied him. Olga Stalmachenok, December 11th, 1982. Just 10 years old, Olga was lured away from a bus station and taken to a secluded field. Chikatilo stabbed her over 50 times, ripped out her uterus, and scattered her organs. These details were kept from the public, too horrific even for Soviet headlines. Part 4, the system that let him kill. From 1982 to 1984, Chikatilo's spree accelerated. He murdered at least 17 more victims in this period. Some stabbed more than 40 times, some blinded, their tongues cut out, their nipples bitten off. And yet, he was caught in 1984 and released. At the time, Soviet forensic standards were based almost entirely on blood type. Chikatilo's semen type, AB, didn't match the crime scene blood type A due to a rare medical anomaly. He was freed even though he'd been caught carrying a knife, rope, and Vaseline near a train station. And so he continued. He killed children like Oleg Makarenkov, 10, and Irina Guliaeva, 18. One girl, Vera Shevkin, was disemboweled with her own school ruler. Another, Nikolai Muratov, was stabbed 70 times. The authorities executed innocent men for some of these murders. Part 5, The Fall of a Monster. His final victim, Sveta Korostik, November 6, 1990. By 1990, Chikatilo was becoming reckless. He lured 22-year-old Sveta Korostik into a patch of woods near a train station in Novocherkassk. He murdered her brutally, mutilated her body, and was seen walking away, wiping his hands. This time, police had been watching the station. They recognized him. After several days of surveillance, Andrei Chikatilo was arrested. Part Fee, Confession, Trial, and Execution. After months of silence, Chikatilo confessed. In chilling detail, he described how he lured his victims, how he stabbed and mutilated them, and why he did it. He claimed he couldn't stop. He said he was sick, but he showed no real remorse. During his 1992 trial, Chikatilo was kept in a metal cage to protect him from victims' families. He ranted, screamed, moaned. At one point, he exposed himself to the judge. But the evidence, his confessions, victim matches, crime scene details, was overwhelming. He was convicted of 52 murders and sentenced to death. On February 14, 1994, Andrei Chikatilo was executed by a single gunshot behind the ear in a prison in Novocherkassk. A system that fed the darkness. Andrei Chikatilo thrived in the shadows of a system that refused to believe monsters existed within its borders. He knew the weak spots, the disbelieved, the discarded, the ones no one would miss. He used the silence to hunt. His victims weren't just victims of a man, they were victims of a regime that chose image over justice and denial over truth. And Chikatilo? He was no demon, he was a man, which makes it all the more terrifying. Because if one man, one quiet, forgettable man, can hide a world of horror behind his glasses, how many more are still out there? Thank you for joining us on this harrowing journey into the life and crimes of Andrei Chikatilo, the Red Ripper, the Butcher of Rostov, the face of horror beneath the Iron Curtain. We tell these stories not to glorify monsters, but to honor their victims, the names that too often get lost in history, the children, the women, the forgotten. Their lives mattered, their stories deserve to be told. In the silence of denial, evil flourished, and Chikatilo wasn't a phantom. He wasn't a legend. He was real. He rode the same trains, shopped in the same markets, walked past strangers every single day, invisible in plain sight. If there's one thing stories like this teach us, it's that monsters don't wear masks. They wear glasses, carry briefcases, say good morning, smile. So next time you're sitting alone on a train or walking home through the dark and you feel like someone's watching, you just might be right. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and keep your eyes open.